Hello, Marvelites! Welcome to Marvel's How to Draw Live, presented by M&M'S Crunchy Cookie. I'm your host, Lorraine Sink, and today we're going to see Marvel Comics artist Alex Lins bring to life one of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe. Of course, I'm talking about Storm, and we are live today, so send in all your questions and comments for Alex in the chat. And if you're going to draw along with us, be sure to share your art with us after the stream. Now, I truly couldn't do this alone, so let's bring on our artist. Please welcome the superstar artist who has worked on books such as New Mutants and Immortal Hulk, Alex Lins. Hi, Alex. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see you draw Storm today. Are you ready to put some digital pen to some digital paper?
Yes, for sure.
All right, well, I'll let you get started there on your drawing. And I just want to remind all our friends who are watching, we want to hear from you in the chat. So let us know if you have any questions for Alex as he draws Storm. And here's a little question to get us going. Alex, you know, you've gotten to work with a few fan favorite Marvel characters over the years. Do you have a favorite to draw from the Marvel canon?
I mean, I think be very obvious with my answer, which is Wolverine, just because of how flexible the character is. You know, the different versions and the different kind of intensity that you can draw it. I think it's he'll be probably one of the ones that I draw the most. Definitely someone from the X-Men tends to be. That's what I'm usually drawing.
Yeah, you're definitely a mutant aficionado. I'd love to know, what's your Marvel origin story? What's the first way that you encountered the Marvel characters and comic books?
Yeah, so I mean, I used to read like all kids, like, you know, the kids drawing the Disney characters and those kind of comics. And then a friend of mine just kind of showed me superheroes growing up, and I believe it was Thor, probably one of the first superhero comics that I read, and that's how it got started.
Awesome. And you know, everybody goes through sort of a different process as they're learning to draw. Did you go the art school route? Did you kind of just self-teach? What was your journey like?
Mostly self taught, but I did go to some classes over the years. I did do one class here in New York at SVA with a comic book artist called Nelson DeCastro. He's like an inker. He did several work for Marvel back, you know, and his class was definitely eye-opening for me in terms of like understanding anatomy and you know, just thinking about what superheroes could look like and understanding and thinking about, you know, the figure. So I do want to get that a shout out to him, because it definitely changed a lot of how I think about that stuff, you know.
Definitely. So I'm looking at you starting to work on Storm here, and I see, you know, you've got some sort of like loose sketching going on in the background. What does your sort of early part of the process look like when you're starting to kind of lay out the character and think about how you want to position them?
Right. So I did several sketches for this one, trying to see what kind of action it would be makes sense. I wanted something to be easy, but also something to be interesting, so I can, you know, just finish on time. And once I got the general gist of what I wanted to do, I kind of started to just, you know, the first sketches tend to be very loose or like lifeless to me sometimes, but then when I start to do like the final drawing from the concept, I trying to just, you know, just give a little final the final sketch, I mean, just kind of start to do, just add some life to it, see where the character could feel more human. So I just, go find, the angles and the pose that feels natural, but then kind of looking at the volume, perspective, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I did in this underdrawing here. But very loose, just kind of trying to build my volumes, like arms, and so I can make sure that her arm bands kind of fit in place in a way that makes sense, and like would be interesting also to make sure it fills in the composition in kind of an interesting way. But it's very loose, so it's almost like 100 lines per part that I'm drawing, just kind of trying to feel what will make sense. But like under it is the whole idea. It's like having those cylinders and things like that, so you can know like this leg is going that way, so you see the cylinder this way, and this one is further down, so it kind of like it's more so you see more of that curve, so you kind of get a sense of this is going further back up, and this one is a little bit closer to you. Just get a sense of a dynamic volume. I think that's kind of what I'm looking at and trying to figure out. And it's like, what is this story? It's like, what is she feeling? And all these things kind of go a little bit through my mind when I'm doing this. Well, I'm just kind of finding the line that will capture it, but at the same time, I'm trying to make it interesting, something cool for people to look at, cool for me to draw, like little accidents that could just make into the final drawing, because it's so undefined at this point that I'm just trying to find the lines that will be interesting to make it into the final drawing. So I usually do that very loose sketch quite quickly. Once I know the pose, then I do another one a little bit tighter, that's what I'm doing before I start inking, basically.
It's interesting, you mentioned her emotion, right? You're thinking about her emotion, and I always forget that artists kind of have to be the actors for the film that is a comic book. You're kind of bringing that emotion to life. And we have some great questions coming in. One here from YouTube that says, what do you do about an artistic block?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
It's a question for the ages, I think, for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I rip up the page. That's the first answer that comes to my mind. I do whatever comes, and then I just put on paper. If it doesn't work, I just rip it up and start again, basically, right? So get that frustration out of yourself and start over. And if I still not feeling, I'll look at something that I find interesting, or I tend to have a box of old drawings, paper drawings that I do, and then I go back and it's like, oh, I did like this one, and I start looking at my own things and see like, oh, those are the things that I like to do that work. So I kind of do that, and I get excited again usually. But if not, then I'll do it what everyone does and go waste some time on social media until I feel a little bit better. Yeah. But tend to look at old things that work, kind of generally does it for me.
Yeah, I really love that. I find sometimes that it's really helpful if you're writing something. I do not have your gifts, but if I'm writing something and I don't know what to write about, I'll be like, well, what part do I want to write about? What part do I know about? Oh yeah, that could be fun. I could go back to that, which I always enjoy. We have another question here. Why did you want to become an artist, and when did you start taking it seriously?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to become an artist, I guess. Once you realize it's like it's something that makes you stand out, like, yeah, that could be cool. People like it, so I think there was some of that, and the idea that you can express something, but I didn't take it seriously for a long time. I started, I kind of professionally started doing other things that was somewhat in the same space, like doing graphic design things and so on, which was, my main thing. Or it still is, I guess. But until like I started to say, I started to do like, oh, maybe I should. I don't know. I just kind of started to feel the urge to do that back again, and I started doing actual comics rather than just noodling on my sketchbook for friends, and that snowballed from there. I think that's kind of.
So then, how did you break into comic books?
Yeah, so I mean, so I started drawing comics with some friends, and that got published like in the more like a sort of indie space. And I brought this to a convention down in Brazil, where I'm originally from, and I was, there's Joey Prado is like the guy who represents me. He was there. He was kind of part of the organization of the event down there where he was, or anyway, he was there as a big part of it, and he I think, God, I forgot his name now. So American Marvel guy was there reviewing portfolio. So, and then some people was like, oh, we should bring it over. And I didn't think my style was like fit for what Marvel. But people were just like, yeah, bring it over. Why not showing to him? And so I showed him some stuff, like the actual comic. He wasn't super interested, but he saw some of the other stuff in my sketchbook, and he's like, well, if you did more like this, I think that could be interesting for Marvel. And I was like, well, surprisingly enough, that's kind of how I always hoped I would draw, and I never thought Marvel would pay attention to. Anyway, so long story short, Joe thought like, oh, why don't you send him your stuff? I represent other artists, and I can, try to see. And then, so it snowballed from there. Kept in touch. Kept showing for like a couple of years the work and the evolution of the work until something materialized. And one of my first professional work was for Marvel.
That's awesome. Yeah, Brazil Comic-Con is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Convention for sure.
That's really cool. So we have a question here from Facebook who said, how many sketches do you usually make until you reach the final result?
It depends, but I tend to do like, one main sketch of like idea or two, and then from there what I do is just trying to refine it. So I was like, oh, work on this detail on a piece of paper, that detail on a piece of paper, until I got what I want. But I don't know, I don't spin around too much looking for sketch, unless obviously when I'm drawing something for Marvel or client that you want to show it options so they can be part of that process too. But if I'm drawing for myself, I kind of started with a core and then started like, oh, this arm should be a little higher up and that kind of stuff, like this one sketch, for example, a thing that that happened was the hair. You know, like I had a version where, you know, I had the regular hair that went like a punk mohawk, and then I thought it was just felt a little not working for the rest of the drawing, because the whole drawing is like a little bit more round, a little bit more organic. So I come up with this kind of more round shape, and I thought that was good. So basically that's, you know, and I did a few shapes until I got it to the point that worked for me.
I love that you chose to do Storm with her mohawk, which I personally, it's like one of my absolute favorite costumes for her for all time. Is this your favorite Storm costume, or do you have a other favorite Storm costume or look?
Yeah, I mean, this one is definitely my favorite, just because it was my first contact with Storm, and I really like her as a character, and you know, at least for me, I wasn't expecting to see an X-Men with this look at the time, so that did it for me. But she had like some really cool looks over the years, but yeah, this is my favorite, I think.
You know, something that's really interesting, I think, about getting to work with the mutants as you have so much, is they all have different powers that manifest in really interesting ways. What do you think is there anything that you've sort of learned, or ways that you've grown as an artist in, you know, exploring the ways that you can kind of show how those powers can manifest on the page?
You mean visually?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting question. It's my weak spot, I think, drawing the effects and like the powers. I don't know.
What do you find challenging about it?
So, one of my aim, like what I like to draw, like I like to draw people that is relatable, like as you can see as a, you know, it's a human doing human things, and drawing superpower is always like that challenge, how to make it cosmically and interesting, you know, like, but at the same time to not feel too disconnected, I guess. And it also, there's such a rich tradition of like drawing some really cool, powerful effect, and I just don't want to do something that feels generic, which I sometimes feel like I do. I don't know. It's just like trying to find like something that is interesting, the way it looks, but without just seeming like, you know, nonsense, I guess. So Storm, it's easy in that sense because you got like, you know, lightning, and that makes it a little bit easier for me. If I'm making sense with my answer.
Definitely. Well, let's take a little closer look as Alex Lenz continues to show us how to draw Storm. If you are just joining us, you're watching Marvel's How to Draw Live, presented by M&M'S Crunchy Cookie, the perfect mix of classic M&M's and nostalgic chocolate chip cookies. And right now, we're live with Alex Linz, who is showing us how to draw Storm. Alex, tell us, where are you at in the drawing right now? Where are you kind of focusing?
Okay, so I was happy with the underdrawing. Now I'm kind of starting, I guess, what we call inking at this point. So just doing like the final line work.
Awesome. And you know, it's interesting because some artists prefer to just do pencils. Some people prefer to ink their own pencils and things. What's your preference?
Well, I do like to ink in my own drawings. I mean, I can't do like a pencil drawing that someone else will be able to interpret in ink. So I think a lot of my work comes in the inky stage because I leave quite a lot of information to be picked up with the ink.
Yeah, I always imagine that it takes a lot of trust to let let your pencils go off into the ether.
No, I don't mind that at all. I'd love to be
really?
able to have someone ink my work. It's just I don't know if I can draw with enough information for someone else to ink, you know.
We have a question coming in from Twitch, which says, any Marvel characters you really want to draw but haven't had the opportunity to yet?
Quite a bunch. So Hulk is definitely my favorite character growing up, and although I got to be on the Hulk book, I didn't get to draw Hulk himself. So hopefully I'll do that at some point. I did draw She-Hulk at some point in a cameo on a New Mutant book. That was great. So I like those characters a lot. So that yeah, I like the Silver Surfer. I think that would be a great character to draw too.
What attracts you to those characters in particular?
Yeah, so the Hulk, because I like the character.
Solid.
And in it's just, you know, just a lot of, you can draw him in several different ways, like without being anatomically correct, so you can exaggerate that. I think that's fantastic, and I like it. Just there's like the Silver Surfer is another one that, although the anatomy is all exposed, he's basically muscles, you know. You still can exaggerate in a way that make the alien part of the character come through. I like that, and I like the world that the Silver Surfer visits, you know, like the whole idea of drawing alien planets and that kind of stuff is right up my alley. I think I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, enormous. It takes a lot of imagination to do that kind of work. And of course, if you guys want to know more about Alex, or drawing for Marvel, or the art process, feel free to drop your questions in the chat wherever you are watching, and we'd be happy to talk about them here on How to Draw Live. So do you ever use art books, or do you have any sort of art books that were instrumental as you were learning that you leaned on?
Yeah, I mean, the drawing comics the Marvel way for sure. It's just like that kind of information you couldn't find anywhere specifically, so that was like eye-opening. What else? The Looney's books are great, you know, just kind of get a sense of get all the basic and all that, the foundational work right? I think, but for a long time, it's just like I didn't really get how to use those books. It's like the most important information tends to be the first, like there's 5 pages at the beginning of all these books, and those are the most important part that you ever gonna use. But they tend to be like, oh, here, make sure to thinking as shapes rather than looking at your own lines, and you kind of glance over that, and you only discover that once you're like drawing a lot, and you're like, oh, shapes, like the class that I was talking about earlier with Nelson. It was about that, like seeing the shapes, like building the shapes, because once you build a simple shape and can rotate that shape, you can draw anything. Like you just need to get the details of what's the difference between a tiger and a lion. There's some specifics, but you can get that structure right, and you can draw. But it tends to be the first 5 pages of the book that I never really paid attention. Like, oh, let's get to the meat of it, and yeah. So there's that about books for me.
There you go. Read the introduction, everyone.
Yeah.
We have another question here from Twitch, which says, best villain to draw. Who's your favorite or the best villain you get to draw?
Oh man. I'd say Dr. Doom. I don't know. He's just such a cool character. And he can be. He's a human being, but also he goes beyond that, and got like all this, like the fancy cloak and that kind of stuff, which gives you a lot of flexibility on drawing. I'm kind of fan of the classics, I guess. So I like Dr. Doom a lot. Who else? Sometimes, yeah, I don't know if he's a bad guy these days, but but I think he would be one that I like drawing.
Who is that? Who would be one?
Yeah, Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom.
Oh, Dr. Doom. Oh, yes, yeah, Dr. Doom. Yeah, I love his cape. He has lots of drama to his costume and his vibe.
Mm-hmm. And he's still human, that's kind of what attracts me too. Anyway.
Yeah, he's kind of got a great contradiction to him, right? Like that kind of irony of he's so emotional and he's so human, but he also wears a metal mask and is trying to control everything.
Yeah, exactly. He's like this. It's fitting that he's dressed as a kind of a robot in a way. It's trying to suppress his humanity, or so he can be evil. But I suspect that he still wants to do good in his own way.
Yeah, no, it's very true. We have another question here from Twitch who said, what is your practice routine these days? Do you have a practice routine that you do regularly?
I do. So because I'm either laying things out, or meaning thinking about storytelling, or I'm penciling, or I divide up on those tasks, right? Or I'm inking, say. So if I focus too much in one of them, I start to get rusty on the other ones. So if I'm inking, I just get some I just get some piece of paper and I start doing layouts, for example, so I can get that going. So if I'm laying things out, so I tend to, like, at the end of the day, just do some inking exercise, so I don't get to, to lose practice. So it'll be a little alternation of that. So it's like your drawing equivalent of doing upper, the upper part and then the lower part. It's kind of like just go back and forth depending on the day, so you don't get tired of one and the other. So it goes a little bit like that. And now, every book will bring you a challenge, and then you kind of realize, well, look, I'm not that good at cars, or I'm not that good at, like, smiles. And then I just go and trying to sharpen that specific skill. Sometimes you're not going to have time while drawing the book to just spend some time on that. So I kind of do this, trying to think about what is challenging about this book, and then kind of trying to train on that one. Something.
Yeah, it's kind of wild because people forget how much work I think it is for an artist to make a comic book, to do 20 plus pages of original art that all have individual panels. I mean, it seems like an enormous amount of work. Do you prefer to sort of pencil everything or lay everything out for the whole issue and then go back and ink, or do you kind of like to go page by page or panel by panel?
Yeah, I tend to pencil everything out and then go inking. I'm a little bit, I try to, like, be more flexible, but my brain doesn't work that way. I need to see the final page, and if I start inking a page, by the end of the day, I want to see the whole thing done. I'm better at that, be more patient, but it's like I also want to see the whole thing. So I go pencil. I get a sense of what he looks like, and also, you need to show your editors to see your progress and see if things are going the right direction. So it's easier to me if I do that. But I do pencil everything and then go back and ink, so I switch back and forth in that way.
Well, let's take a little closer look at how to draw Storm here with Alex Linz. If you're just tuning in, this is Marvel's How to Draw Live, presented by M&M'S Crunchy Cookie. I don't know about you, but I love making chocolate chip cookies, and when I do, I have been known to use some M&Ms instead of chocolate chips. So if you're like me, you are gonna love M&M's Crunchy Cookie because that's what you get in every bite. All right, Alex, I see that you are working on I see some powers and effects sort of coming in. Where are you at in the process?
Yeah, so kind of shading a little bit here, cheating. I had some lighting effect that I drew before that I like. And so I brought those in, and I'm kind of just integrating that to the artwork, the line work for the character, and hopefully I'm gonna start moving on to colors, I think.
Ooh. We also have some good love coming in from Twitch. We have, I love these How to Draw live streams. Thank you.
Very cool.
We have a blast getting to do them. And this is just like magic to me, what you do, Alex. Like, it's just so impressive to just sort of see this character magically appear on the page.
I know, I think that's what every one of us like to do too. It's like, oh, look what I just made appear. There's some magic to even, definitely to myself, some of that.
And we got another YouTube comment here that said, Mohawk Storm is the best. Hard agree. And we got another great one from YouTube that says, wow, good work. Loved it always. Your art is just incredible.
Well, thank you.
And then we have a question here from Twitch, which said, what are your most important tips for absolute beginners?
It's hard because whatever I say, and I don't know if an absolute beginner, because it took me so many years to really get that the basic is you need to learn to see, and that's if you know how to see, everything else should fall together kind of nicely, you know. Like, what is an arm if not a cylinder? If you see that cylinder and you understand how the behavior of a cylinder happens over different angles, different distances, then you're kind of halfway there. And learning to see not the drawing but what you are supposed to draw, I think that's, for me, the foundational thing for everyone. You know, those boring classes that people get you to draw, like what do you call it? Like, you know, the cylinders and they put on the table,
like,
you know,
still
the life
life
drawing, like the still life, the very basic thing. I think that's kind of, if you appreciate that, then you're halfway there. I didn't, so it took me a long time.
Well, there you go. That's a great tip. We have a very intense question here. Hello, Lorraine and Alex. How's it going? How's it going, Alex?
Yeah, good.
And then from Twitch, have you always used the digital pen? Or do you also use pen and ink?
Yeah, so this is really my first time drawing digitally.
Really?
So yeah, I squibble a little bit with the iPad here and there. I never got used to it, and because I tend to spend too much time on screen, I just like the paper. So all my pages so far, they're 98% done on paper. I do the borders and some tweaks on the computer later. But yeah, paper and inks, that's most of what I do. Although I have to say I'm kind of enjoying trying it out on this Cintiq here.
It's so impressive to me because, it seems like digital has so much freedom, because I can see you can drop in and out those layers and take stuff in and out, which is kind of magical. I feel like when you use pencil and paper, you're like if you draw a line, then it feels like you're kind of stuck with that line. Do you have a good fix for, you know, if you start inking and you don't like the line and you're doing it analog, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I roll with the punches, you know. I was like, yeah, I trying to incorporate the accident in the work. Or I just use like a white paint, you know, to kind of fix it up. And yeah, it's like I do use like gouache, and I learned when I went to Brazil. I mean, I don't find it here so commonly, but last time I was in Brazil, I went to a bookshop and they had those white tapes for corrections, which I found like fascinating. So I loaded up on those, and I'd be using those because they're like, you know, you can start drawing right away on top of it. And I love it. It's so those are my secrets on that.
There you go. We have another question here from YouTube. Hi Alex, you talked about drawing, but what about storytelling? How do you tackle improving your storytelling skills for comics specifically? And what do you pay attention to when reading or making comics?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so what I do is I might watch a film and then kind of trying to sketch out scenes. That's one thing I do. You know, just kind of trying to get composition that tells a story effectively. You know, I'll definitely observe other comic book artists, how they solve similar problems that I've encountered. You know, and I think nothing beats you trying to copy then, rather than just looking, right? You kind of just go in and just like, oh, and then you appreciate the little lines and the little nuance, or like, why is this character cropped in a certain way and not another way? So that helps. I tend to do those things. Yeah, just watching other pieces of storytelling to see what works. And I do little experiments too. Just kind of, you know, not just to be incorporating other people's work, but to do little experiments, like, you know, maybe an idea will come to you and just like try it out and see if it could be incorporated in a work. So I do those, you know, I spend a lot of time doing little thumbnails and kind of sharpen that up. And you know, it's a lot of people use the metaphor of like, oh, it's kind of like music in a way for like storytelling, with the beats and riffing and speed. And I didn't quite understood that for some time until I kind of decided to. Meaning, like, I started to think about the frames as you know, a small frame, it lasts this long. As a longer frame, you know, it's a little longer, things like that. So I kind of put on paper once, just to kind of get a sense of that, and that was also helpful. So what I'm saying is, like, are there other things that you can look to be inspired by? Or because, you know, a song can tell a story, so why not borrow from that, you know?
Definitely.
I think, yeah.
So right now you're sort of filling everything in with red. What is this part of the process, and how does it work?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start coloring soon, and to make it easier later on, I'm just kind of building the shape as in a block of color so I can use to easily select later. So I don't have to be careful once this is done, you know? Like, so the colors will be within the shape, so I can just kind of, I'm gonna color pretty loosely. So it will make my life easier.
When you were little, were you really good at coloring books?
No, I want to say I don't remember, but my guess is no, because I'm not good at coloring even now. So yeah, this is my weak spot. So you're watching me trying my best at doing this.
I think you're very modest.
No, it's true. But yeah, we'll see.
And then we have a comment here that just said, finding this mesmerizing to watch, lol, as well as a question. What is your favorite thing about working on Marvel Comics specifically?
Okay. I haven't done much work for other publishing companies, and I don't see any wood here, so I'm not gonna, I don't know, hopefully I'm not botching it, but it's been some of my favorite professional experiences is working with Marvel, because well, it doesn't feel like work. People are so passionate about what they do, you know, and that energy, it just like makes your life easier and the work environment more interesting. So yeah, so like they appreciate what you do, they give you the freedom. It's been quite interesting to me, and you got to play with those characters, you know, kind of fun.
Yeah, it definitely is just so fun to get to be around the characters and the stories, and to see it all come to life is really fun from this side of the table for sure. How many different people are involved in making comic art for a comic book?
Yeah, it depends, right? But it could be that one person will do everything, but that's very rare. But at least you have the writer on the art side. Like you have the writer, you have a penciler, an inker, so that's 3. Then you have designers, and you have the lettering, so that's 5. At least 5 people usually.
Yep.
Did I count that right? Okay. And then you have, you know, a whole bunch of people behind the scenes, kind of make sure that things get out on time, fulfills a vision. So you got the editors, you got the master planners, and you know, all the people that make sure you're not slacking. So it's a lot of people.
Definitely.
But,
I always think it's interesting that in comics you always meet a lot of editors have theater backgrounds, and I feel like a lot like theater, you know, comic books are this really collaborative art form where everybody is like has a different section of what they do and is contributing their own little piece of the puzzle in a fun way.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, yeah.
Let's take a little bit closer look at How to Draw Storm here with Alex Linz. Hey everyone, I'm Lorraine, your host for Marvel's How to Draw Live, and this stream is brought to you by M&M'S Crunchy Cookie. And let me tell you, you gotta get yourself a bag of these. I have been snacking on them while Alex is drawing. Sorry, Alex. I'm enjoying a snack though. And speaking of Alex, wow, it's really coming together so amazingly. Where are you at in the color process?
Yeah, so just finishing up that blocking of the colors. So now I'm just now is like the fun part sort of for me, which is just rendering out like the shadows and just hiding some of my mistakes with the colors, things like that, so we make it a little bit more focus on one thing or another thing that I wanted to highlight. So I'm using that time now for that. So kind of just roughly, just using a bit of gradient, a bit of painting over, just kind of help focus the eye. So that's basically what I'm doing. Kind of doing some special effects and things like that. So going back,
it looks amazing. I have a question here from Twitch, which says, what screen resolution do you usually work with? I know you don't use a digital pen all the time, but what screen resolution do you usually work with, and how big is this piece pixel-wise? Thanks.
So this one is about 2,500 pixels wide. Yeah, but if you're gonna work for print, you want to make sure that is at the final resolution that I want to be printed at. I tend to draw at like 600 DPIs, which makes the drawings sharper, and then kind of dial it back to what needs to be, say 300 or so. But yeah, 2,000. If it's 2,000 pixels at 300 DPI, it's gonna be a small drawing. But yeah, that's what this one is about. For the stream works well.
And how long does it usually take you on average to finish an interior page?
Yeah, usually about a day. But sometimes a little longer. It depends on what page it is, if the details on that, or like what is this page asking for. But yeah.
So what do you think is more fun to you? A big, huge splash page that's got lots going on, or a bunch of little panels?
A bunch of little panels.
Why is that?
And one of those, well, you got more chance to draw the subtle emotions. I think that's what I like. And then trying to build the storytelling rather than doing like a big splashy thing. At least for me, it's more interesting. But yeah, I like that kind of problem solving part of it, So yeah. Though of course, once in a while you want to do your double page spread, and that can be really fun if the concept is really nice too. It's like with the blast.
This is just coming together so amazingly and so quickly. I'm curious,
Thank you.
How do you work on your personal style, right? Like, I think it's interesting, right? Because everyone has sort of a different concept of what they're drawing to, but also I've heard it said like your style is somewhat like your mistakes, or like the thing that you do different than, and then like the way that you break from the norm. How do you kind of develop that and figure out what your style is?
Yeah, that's It's a tough thing. I think it's ongoing for me, but I think, like you said, is there's a little bit of that embracing your own limitations in a way. Which comes down to like, oh, that's what I like to do, you know, and then kind of embracing what you like to do, and just trying to make it work, trying to make it something that other people can understand, and what is the best version of that mistake, you know, that only you can do because, well, you like you like, I don't like drawing it. So here's one thing, for example, I don't like to draw the line, like come in and draw one side of the line. Let me see if I can do that quickly. But let's say you know, I don't like to draw, what is this, like this, and kind of fill in the line, right? So you kind of get like thin lines, and so like you see here on the hair or in some places. I like to do is like in one swoosh kind of capture that thin and thick, and which is a small thing, but it was such a revolution for me, if I can say that, because it just kind of, I learned what I like to do, you know, and that kind of, I relax about it, and trying to see, okay, so this is what I need to learn to do really well if I want to keep being able to do this kind of sloppy line, you know, which is learn to draw lines in one swoop. So things like that will pop up, and then, you know, what do you like? You like horses? You like what kind of subject matter you're interested in? Kind of helps you out also with that, I think. And then you draw as much as you can until you find something that's interesting, you know, that you can see yourself doing again and again. I think it comes down to that to me.
You know, you mentioned earlier your experience at Comic-Con Brazil, and kind of showing your portfolio for your start. What kind of art do you think you should bring to show a company like Marvel if you want to be a comic book artist?
Yeah, if you're drawing pages, you need to bring pages. That's a no-brainer answer. So, and you know, a lot of what I heard about people like, oh, you know, draw from the sample script, so to make sure that you include everything, and you know, horses and buildings and this and that, you know. But also, I think what worked best for me was to draw a page that has variation, that has like different things, but also it's like something that I like to draw, you know. So I wouldn't shy away to say, well, here's my horse space opera, because that's what I like, because you're gonna put everything of yourself in that, you know, and that passion, that that love for the subject will make your page more interesting, because you're gonna go all the way, and it's something that you already have imagined. So for the beginner, I think I found that to be valuable and liberating when I did it, to be honest. So I know it's not what a lot of people say, but it kind of worked for me. So
well, I certainly hope we'll see more horse space operas. The world definitely needs them. And we're going to just take a closer look at Alex Linz as he continues to show us how to draw Storm and fill in her colors. Wow, this art is looking incredible. And of course, you're watching Marvel's How to Draw Live, presented by M&M'S Crunchy Cookie. And if you want more M&M's goodness, you can scan the QR code here on the front of each package and get access to exclusive content, coupons, recipes, and more. Plus, they're delicious, so that's also a bonus. But we are just having a blast looking at Alex Lin's here and his incredible work on Storm. I mean, I can't believe how far we've come from essentially the blank page to here. Where are you kind of, making your final tweaks and touches?
Yeah, just trying to find, just bring everything together, just give a little bit of, color and variation and things like that, just to make the piece overall more interesting. I mean, with more time, I would go in and add more detail and then make some of these things shine. But that's kind of, I wanted to show this one last step that I tend to do, which is like once I have everything there, just just trying to add variation and some interest to make it pop a little.
I mean, obviously we're watching the process, but how do you sort of develop that pattern that you were adding in the background?
The dots?
Yeah, sort of the dots, and I mean, there's just so much texture to it now.
Right.
At first you just have that kind of flash.
Right. So, I mean, this is kind of like it got one of those texture. It's a really, this one is a brush that just kind of creates some interest in the background there. It's just like nothing too special there, to be honest. But I thought like once you start mixing up and like the colors and the layer effect, it gives a little bit of, make it a little bit more vibrant. That's what I was going for.
Obviously Storm is one of the greatest X-Men of all time, but do you have a favorite X-villain?
I don't know if I do have a villain that I think Mr. Sinister. I think. Yeah. I think. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Mr. Sinister. Gotta love a guy with a diamond in the forehead, loves to mess with genetics.
I know. Yeah, I think that's the epitome of an enemy for the X-Men. If you like eugenics.
Well, they are big on the genes, those mutant genes, very important. I also appreciate that he's brought us so many great clones. Send in the clones.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just find it to be a perfect fit for them. There's, I mean, I like the stories where like the X-Men are facing not like actual evil people, but like just people that say the Avengers or whatever, like the Asgardians, because that puts them in contrast to the other heroes. And I think that's what attracted me the most, like growing up with the X-Men, seeing that you sort of fit in but you don't, and what is it that it's not quite working, but I'm a superhero, why so there's some of that, being a good guy but not quite fit in, that I appreciate about the X-Men.
Yeah, I think we all, have a soft spot in our heart because we all have a little slice of X-Men in there, in our own special, unique ways. So Alex, are you done? Is this Storm complete?
I think for now, yes. I think I kind of don't know if I add any more, I might mess it up even more. So I think
sometimes
I'll leave it at that.
I'm sure that sometimes just saying I'm done is a gift in its own way.
Yeah, I feel like I need to zoom in and do things, but I like where this is at the moment.
Well, this has been so much fun and so wonderful to learn how to draw Storm. Alex, where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram, on Alex Links Art. A little bit on Twitter, but definitely in Instagram. That's where you find most of my social updates.
There you go. Go follow Alex, see all of his beautiful art. And everyone, if you drew along with Alex today, we want to see it. Tweet it using the hashtag #MarvelLive and we'll go check it out. And thank you so much to M&M'S Crunchy Cookie for sponsoring today's stream. And of course, make sure to pick up your bag of M&M'S Crunchy Cookie so that you can experience the delicious flavors for yourself. And special thanks, Alex, for sharing your incredible talent with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here, and hope people got something out of it.
They sure did. I know I did. Thank you so much. I'm Lorraine Sink, and this is Marvel, your universe.